A lot of political drama unfolded this past week with the Hawks summoning the Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and others to their offices to sign warning statements. The minister and other former SARS employees were called to the offices to give statements about their involvement in the setting up of the infamous SARS spy unit. Many political leaders, including the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, have spoken out against this investigation, and the South African Communist Party says it regards the summoning of the minister as unwarranted intimidation and harassment. Pravin Gordhan, the Minister of Finance, in the meantime refused to report at the Hawks offices. Struggle stalwart George Bezos and other civil society organizations marched to the offices of the Hawks, and the director of the Helen Suzman Foundation, Francis Antonie, was himself present at this march and has called for a special probe into the appointment of Hawks head General Berning Ntlemeza, and he joins us to discuss these matters. Francis, once again, pleasure to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Yeah, you know, sometimes when I read in the newspapers, I watch on television and I see seniors like yourself having to wake up early in the morning. If you don't live in Pretoria, having to drive there, be in the traffic and carry placards and march and give statements and say, you know, these people are supposed to be enjoying their time away from these issues and letting young people deal with what is going on. But it tells me it's a very, very serious issue that's going on here. George Bezos himself even expressing concerns about law and justice in the country. So, which is a broader issue, right? We'll talk about that. But the specifics around the Minister Pravin Gordhan.
Yes.
And people, you know, those who agree with the investigation say there's that principle of law in South Africa that all are equal before the law. So Pravin Gordhan must just face the music like everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah, so?
I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I have no doubts that he would agree with that statement as well. I've never met the man, so I don't know him.
Yes.
But we are all equal before the law.
Yeah.
That includes the president, that
Yes.
includes you, that includes me.
Yes.
No problems about that at all. What we are concerned about at the Helen Suzman Foundation, and as you rightly say that I was there yesterday with George and also with Judge Johan Krechler. And these are elders, as you were saying.
Yes.
Well, the elders have to do something, you know, to while away the time.
Yeah.
Our concern is the way this is going. They are going about this. Is this harassment? Is this intimidation? Because having looked at all the documents which are in the public realm, I can say there seems to be no basis for this, what amounts to be harassment. There seems to be no basis. I'm not unaware of what you call the notorious spy or rogue unit.
Yeah.
It's an investigative unit. Was that unlawful? Fine. If Mr. Pravin Gordhan has done anything which is unlawful, then bring charges. This has gone on for months now. You'll recall, your viewers will recall, that he had to answer just before the budget came up for a reading in Parliament. He had to answer some 27 charges.
Yes.
He answered them. The Hawks then responded, and this is widely reported, that he was not the subject of an investigation.
Yes.
He was not a suspect. Suddenly this arrives on Monday that he must now appear before the Hawks for a warning statement. Why? Have they changed their minds? I would be far more persuaded that there is something really wrong when the NPA comes up with a charge. So why is this happening? Earlier this morning, Matthew Sposa, the former treasurer of the ANC, echoed similar comments. Why is this happening now? Is this harassment? The other thing is, and it's not to excuse or exempt Mr. Gordhan from any inquiry or from any scrutiny, but we're facing the possibility of a downgrade. In whose interest is the downgrade?
But here's the thing, and I'm not defending any position here. I'm actually wondering out loud that The downgrade is one of the concerns. The business leaders went on a roadshow led by himself, Minister of Finance. He was reinstated into that position when we were facing serious trouble on the financial markets with the rand depreciating rapidly at the time and the people losing value in their shares on the stock exchange, all of those things and mechanisms being put together. And then the whole point was Pravin Gordhan has been brought back to stabilize things and get us hopefully on a growth trajectory, which has been what he's talking about a lot, right? Because now it's zero growth this year. The institutions tell us, the very state institutions themselves. Now, why would a person who's tasked with such a huge responsibility and occupies a senior position in cabinet and in government generally be the focus of the Hawks in this sustained manner? Because it seems like it was put on hold just before the elections, the whole harassment investigation, and now it's resuscitated hardly a week or so after, coalition governments are formed in the metros and elsewhere.
And it happens a few days after the presidency announces that the president himself will provide the strategic leadership and direction of state-owned enterprises. One mustn't keep that out of the discussion as well.
Why? I mean, where does it connect? You tell me.
Is that the function of the president to do that? I don't know. We will inquire about what the functions and role of the president is. But state-owned enterprises are a major challenge that we face in this country. We don't have to go into too much detail about SAA and the ongoing bailouts that you and I and the other taxpayers are having to keep afloat or in the sky. Why is that? Why is that an issue now suddenly? I don't know. So the question is, are there any coincidences in politics, or is this a context in which we've got to examine what is going on with the Treasury, the Minister, and the Hawks?
But tell me, I mean, when you talk with other people, like Advocate George Bezos and other people who are concerned about these things, what is their understanding of what they think is going on? The Hawks would argue, we're just doing our job, and that other people have said the minister must comply. He's behaving as if he's way above the law. On the other hand, Trevor Manuel called this a disaster about to happen, the harassment, and if he were to be arrested, that it would cause problems for us.
Well, we've also had Mr. Zuma's son entering the debate, which is quite astonishing for the president's son to be entering such a highly political debate. The family should really stay out of politics if the president is there, no matter who he or she is. I would like to know, what has Mr. Gordhan done which is so outrageous by refusing to go to the Hawks head office yesterday? He is perfectly within his rights. Everybody has seen the letter that his lawyers have written. It's perfectly legal. It's not arrogant. He is within his rights. He, as a citizen and as a Minister of State, is acting within his rights. Our concern is the Hawks acting within its proper rights?
What do you think is going on?
Unfortunately, I don't believe that they are. My concern is, are they being used as a political tool? That's the first thing. The second is this investigation is being spearheaded by Lieutenant General Ntlemeza. He is the head of the Hawks. Right now, in a case brought by the Helen Suzman Foundation, we are appearing in both the High Court in Pretoria and the Constitutional Court, because we have before both those courts arguments saying that Mr. Ntlemeza is unfit for office. He has been declared in judgments by two judges as being dishonest. He lies under oath. Now, he perjures himself. Is a man of that stature able to lead an investigation into what is a very serious possible allegation against the Minister of Finance? And we don't believe that he is. We believe that the sooner we have these cases heard, the better, because this will clarify the status of the two other judges' views of his dishonesty. Because if he is dishonest, and there's no reason to believe that he isn't, because those judges wouldn't have fabricated this, this man is totally unable to run the Hawks. And he shouldn't run the Hawks if that is so.
Well, what about political support for the minister by the president and his colleagues in cabinet? When you look at their statements and everything, what do you think? What's your view of the kind of support, if any, that they're giving the minister?
Well, the president has said that he can't intervene in this matter. But the Minister of Police surely must have been briefed about what is going on, because after all, this is an investigation not into the senior member of cabinet, the most senior. In our system of government, and I think in most systems of government, the finance minister is the most senior. And surely there's a problem here if his colleague on in the cabinet, the Minister of Police, doesn't know what's going on. And he must have been briefed by the Hawks. This again, I presume. After all, Mr. Ntlemeza appointed Lieutenant General Ntlemeza. So I would at this point suspend belief about what is coming out of the cabinet.
Now, let's go back to the earlier point you made in the bigger context, right, of the country's interests. The concerns are there for and about Mr. Pravin Gordhan's intimidation, harassment, the way we may see it, but he's now tasked with trying to get the economy going again, and on top of that, holding the ratings agencies at bay.
Yes.
But he's got to deal with this. What about that bigger interest, you think? I mean, those who know better or should know better, do you think they are concerned, they care about this?
I don't know. My hope is, and my understanding of what politics is about, is that they ought to be caring about this. As you've mentioned, as I mentioned, we face the possibility of a downgrade.
Yes.
This would be very, very serious for the country. That's the first thing. The second is we have to have growth in this country. Unless we have growth, we are not going to create the jobs that we need to assist the people of this country. We know that unemployment is high. Amongst young people, it's higher than 50%. Where are we going to get those jobs? If you were an investor, would you want to invest in South Africa? Whether you're a local investor or a foreign investor, with such uncertainty, where we have a situation that we have 3 finance ministers in 4 days, is this a Mickey Mouse operation that we're talking about? No, it's my country, it's your country. It's not a Mickey Mouse operation. And we must resist those who would want it to be a Mickey Mouse operation. You cannot have that degree of uncertainty in any investment climate, because nobody's going to invest. There'll be a holdback from the domestic side in terms of investment and from the foreign side. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know what's happened to the currency.
Final question. What do you think should happen now? I mean, we're speculating, right? Or is happening now. Do you think that the minister is being harassed out of his position, or is expected to resign because firing him would be something else? What do you think?
I think the minister is under what I can only imagine is intolerable pressure. It's not right for any man or woman to be under that sort of pressure. That's the first thing. Then I'd ask, why is he under intolerable pressure? Is it because he has done something wrong? And if so, then let's see. And if he hasn't done something wrong and there are no charges brought against him, then who is behind this? Because the Hawks are not a power in the land answerable to no one. They are answerable to Parliament. So I'd want to ask those questions. Are you sure you know what you are doing? Are you sure you know how to lead this country to those people who lead it? Are you sure you are doing this in the interests of the country? Because this isn't a chance matter.
Francis Antonie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the director of the Helen Suzman Foundation, Francis Antonie, talking to us about the developments around the Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan, who for the second time in recent times, in the past few months, has publicly complained about what he personally regards as harassment of himself, and that the allegations against him, he seems to be regarding them as spurious and unfair and untested. And that is why he refused to present himself to the Hawks offices this past week. But it's a developing story with serious political ramifications. And that is why we will always keep focused on it. Many political players have commented on it. And there are interesting developments that are likely to emerge going forward. We'd like to hear your views via Twitter at Tim Modise. Tell us what you think of the developments around Pravin Gordhan.